and perhaps far more important, is now to tell Nigerians the danger what we are likely to see tomorrow, the new trick that they have come up with. And what is that? Now, this particular new trick, Aruleba, 2 states last year tried it because the current system have been used to conduct over 105 elections.
See, there are times when you need to think Nigeria. You just meditate and think Nigeria. There are times when you need to pray for Nigeria. There are also times you need to cry for Nigeria. Just cry. Just sit down and cry Nigeria. This is the point to be crying Nigeria because I don't get it. I don't get it. What is all this metamorphosed intelligence on systematic arrangement to put us in perpetual bondage for? There are countries in this world that are thinking artificial intelligence, thinking of solution to helping their citizenry get better in all sectors, all ramifications. There are some countries that are thinking of how to ease the way of doing business, the way of living. There are some transhumanists around that are thinking of how to increase, how to make people not die again. Even though you say it's against biblical norms, but there are people that are thinking solutions to world problems per second. There are some countries, even third world countries like us, that are doing strategic collaborations with other nations and other societies to ensure that people get better privileges in creating solutions. People are using science and technology to effect some level of change, strategic change in the way people live on Earth. What's the problem here? There are some countries, people are thinking far. The country that banned cryptocurrency, the country that is against anything that will better. Till today, there are problems everywhere, and the Nigerians' intelligence is being employed in ensuring that we begin to rig elections. Everything that the politicians are thinking in this country is how to rig elections. That's why they can put on hold on every strategic things in this life and say for rigging. They can have meetings and have strategy and think. They can hire hackers and do anything. As long as it's about rigging themselves to power, they will do it. That's where we are. This is the video to watch and share. I don't want to even talk too much in this one. Watch this video and share this video. How they have masterminded rigging in the past presidential election and even the election that's going to hold tomorrow. Everybody needs to see this video. Everybody needs to see this video so that we open our eyes and be smart. Any attempt to change, to manipulate, to rig, to create irregularity, to create chaos, may our eye open. If you don't know, they say knowledge is power. This is the video to watch and share. I don't want to even spend too much time talking. Like this video that many people will see it. When you like, Facebook recommend it for other people to see. When you comment, your opinion will be heard. Point out the things that you saw that you have taken note of and share this video to a larger audience. I beg of honor. Let the whole world, especially Nigerians that are voting tomorrow, and even those that are not voting that needs to know so they can call their, let them see this video. I beg. God, this country.
I think first and foremost, I need to make a very fundamental clarification. That is that I left the service of the Independent National Electoral Commission, having served my second term of 5 years in August last year. However, having spent over 10 years in the commission and having been part of those who designed the current process that is being implemented, being used for this election since 2010, even though I am free to accept the consultants from various political parties and all of that, I declined because I needed to be detached, to remain neutral, to see to the implementation of the innovations that I was part of designing to address historical challenges of election service delivery in our country. And so what I did was that I was rather going to consult for the Nigerian people. And you all recall that AIT is one of the stations, like Channels, Arise, TVC, that offered me the platform to educate Nigerians on the new Electoral Act in terms of the ABC of the Act, the procedures that have been developed, and that I did for over a year without being paid. AIT didn't charge a dime, but you could imagine if all the hours given to me for almost a year to be paid for the airtime, I know what will cost Nigerians. So I understand, I give this context, I get the background of your question as I go into that now, for people to appreciate that what I did was a service to the fatherland. Because my votary, before I went into INEC in 2010, and all through the period, my votary has already been the process and procedure. That if the process, if the procedure is okay, the outcome should be accepted without feuds. It's on that basis that I embark on those education. Now, and the education I embarked on, it was not something that is not new to Nigerians. We have used, it took us, Benga, 20 years to be able to repeal election rigging provisions contained in our statutes, which are they are basically 4. Section 49 of the Repeal Act gave power for presiding officer, when he is satisfied, that's the language used, that he can issue ballot to people. That was now used to rig election by compromising presiding officer. At that time, we're using state civil servant. It must be recalled by Nigerians that it was when we came on board under the Jega leadership that we moved away from the use of what we call civil servant across state of Nigeria, primary school teacher, who were now compromised by virtue of section 49. At that time, those you find as presiding officer at polling unit turn out to be state civil servant. Number two, but today that has been repealed. We now have section 47 that has brought in the regime of the beavers, and I'm going to speak about the beavers extensively on account of the election coming up tomorrow. Number two, statutory provision for rigging for 20 years was now repeal section 53 of the Act. Now that section 53 was the section that deal with numbers of registered voters, and in which case that led to people sexing up voter registration. Once you become a governor, you become a member of assembly, in the next voter registration, suddenly the figures of your area will now balloon up. That was what being used. It was that section that led to what you call inconclusive election, because you were basing it purely on what you call number of register. Now, that section had been repealed. We now have what you call section 51 of the 2022 Electoral Act, which now base a computation on accreditation, those who actually came, irrespective of those who are on the register, that will now be used to rig election. Now, we now have the last section, which is section 68 of the Repeal Act. That section gave power to a returning officer who, even under duress, under gunpoint, once he makes a declaration, the law says that even the INEC that employed the professor to be a returning officer, you cannot challenge it. People must go to court. That is why we now have my worry about the expanding empire of the courts in determining who becomes a leader in our country. That section has been repealed. You now have section 65 of the 2022 Electoral Act that gives INEC the power to review any declaration from polling unit, the work election center, that is made inconsistent with the provision of the law. I give this background, so it was against this background that I embarked on that education. Now, profound on this act, is the fact that you now have section 60 of the Electoral Act that mandates a presiding officer to transmit or transfer, whichever language you call, under section 60 subsection 5. Number two, you now have section 64 subsection 4 of the Act with respect to a work collation officer, that at the end of the day you must transfer. Then of course you now have what you call that section 64. Now all of these sections were meant to address, to save INEC process and procedure, including clause 38 of the regulations and guidelines. They were all designed to address historical challenges of election service delivery in our country. It's against that background that I gave the education which I gave. Gbenga, do you know that after the 25th February presidential election, I have received almost 3,000 messages by those who traveled from Canada, Malta, who came to Nigeria to be part of that exercise. Unfortunately, which is the question you asked me, which I'm not able to answer, why there was a problem with that of the presidential, but that of senatorial and House of Rep went through. Gbenga, as we are, you know, I'm a lawyer. Where we are right now, it is now a matter before the court to determine. But Nigerians are asking questions, and that question I will not be able to answer because I am no longer in INEC. I don't know what happened. Even myself, I still want to know what happened. That is with respect to your first question.
Okay, all right. Maybe I should navigate to another area, which is that, again, because of what members of the public are saying, is it possible or is it conceivable at all that you could actually use the beavers to perpetrate rigging? Is it possible? Is it possible to use the beavers to rig an election?
Thank you very much. Gbenga, that's why I said it was unfortunate what happened with respect to the issue of that upload with respect to the presidential, which has now tend to overshadow the beauty, the value that the beavers has brought in. So categorically, I can tell you that the beavers cannot be used to change the outcome of the election. What politicians are now trying to do is to get around the benefit of the beavers, and they cannot do anything. And I will state it for the following. One, it will let you know that with beavers, it has brought sanity to the accreditation process in our elections. That is to say, the principle of one person, one vote is now back fully. In fact, the beavers have now put the Nigerian voter at the center of our electoral democracy. That is why today, with the beavers, the fraudulent practice, the what we call organized crime that used to take place at polling units, where party agents at the end of election, they will now share what they call unused ballots, because you have section 53 that was dealing with total number of registered voters instead of the new act now. Today, you can no longer, in all the election, presidential election, there was nothing like sharing of unused ballot. That has put an end to that rigging that has been on for a very long time. Number two, and I want to flag up what you call the beauty of a table I sent to you, so that Nigerians, irrespective of what happened in the presidential election, that are now matter to be dealt with by the judiciary, please just put on the table which I sent to you. I can just read it out to you here quickly.
Yeah.
And that is that, Gbenga, I use Delta State. As I speak to you, I'm flagging up all the states from Abia to Zamfara, the last state, by way of alphabetical order. And you can now see that in all the 36 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, including the Federal Capital Territory, that in those days, in previous election, before beavers, you will find that people will produce millions of votes, thousands of votes. In this election, did you see a candidate scoring 1 million from anywhere? It didn't happen. Now, I use one example to show to Nigerians, and this is the same you have in all the states of the Federation, showing clearly that the beavers is really the game changer. In Delta, we had 3 senatorial districts like all other states. I am an honorable man from the Delta Central. So I want to start charity must begin from home of the wrong thing in my own area. Now, I have a data showing what happened in 2011, 2015, 2019. But let me use the last figures of 2019 of where we don't have what they call beavers, when we had what they call corridor, and people sabotage corridor by using incident form. Remember that with beavers, no more incident form. Now, in that election, in my own rural land, there was a place called Ethiop West. At that time, in 2019, they posted 62,044 results in the 2019 election. But guess what? Because of the beavers that has brought sanity to the process, what do you have? What you now have is just 4,403. Can you imagine that? Go to Delta North, Ika North East. In 2019, where you didn't have beavers, where they brought mudslide, they had 67,417 in 2019. But guess what? In the current election, which of course there's a big question mark, I'm still studying the figure because there's a fundamental issue there. I learned that it had been cancelled, but let me show you the figure here now. You now have 16,696. That was the new figure now. Now, finally, on the senatorial district, which is the last one, I just pick one example each. Warri Southwest, the riverine area. In 2019, they posted 139,534 votes who were said to have been accredited, which are not true. Beavers has exposed that now. In the current data figure in the last election, they only have 3,183. So who says that the beaver is not a game changer? Furthermore, and perhaps far more important, is now to tell Nigerians the danger what you are likely to see tomorrow, the new trick that they have come up with. And what is that? Now, this particular new trick, Aruleba, 2 states last year tried it because the current system have been used to conduct over 105 elections. So my education was not something with a fluke. Now, the new trick is this. They tried it in 2 states off-season by-election, but they failed because there's an antidote to that. That antidote, I will not mention it today. It will be after that election tomorrow. They will fall into that trap and they will bear the consequences. And what is it? Boyinga, what they are now planning, what they did in those 2 states, one from South-South and one from South-East, when we had by-election. What they did was this, and this is what people must watch out for tomorrow. Those who are listening to this program, please, this thing must be highlighted in your news. What do they want to do tomorrow? As they have tried even the last election. What they are going to do is this. They will wait around 1 o'clock or 2 p.m. when there have been some level of accreditation carried out. What they will do, they will come to the polling unit. They will carry the poll officials, they will shoot their way in there. They will pick the poll officials, the beavers, the ballot box, the ballot papers. They will take them to somewhere. When they get there, for example, maybe in a particular polling unit, where you have 500 registered voters, and as at the time they came to cut away, abduct the poll officials, at that time 150 people had been accredited and their ballot already been cast on the ballot box. What they will do is this, which these 2 states they did. Whenever I knew that they were going to escalate it, it appeared they have sold the formula out now. But it's a failed formula. But the idea is that they want to be declared winner. Declare the House of Members of Assembly winner, declare the governor winner, let people go to court. Here's what they will now do. They will now destroy, they will look at the beavers. They will see that the beavers are accredited 150. And in that polling unit, you have 500. So you still have what you call 350 ballot papers yet to be used. Yeah. What they will do is that they will not touch the beavers. They will not touch it because there's no way you can impute accreditation without the people not actually being there. So what they will do is that they will put the beavers aside. They will now bring out the ballot paper that have been cast genuinely, legally, that they carried away, they will destroy all of them. They will throw them away. They will now print new set of ballot paper up to 150 or less, but they will not exceed what you have on the beavers, so that in the case of litigation, you will feel that the beavers will tally. But what would have changed
there
is
will
that
be no question of overvoting. Yeah, I said there will be no question of overvoting. Yeah.
Yes. So now, the new set of ballot papers will not exceed that one. They will now print new. Now, in what they would now do is that out of the 150 or less they may choose, they could give 130 for those who are doing that for its candidate or for the party. They will allocate 130 vote. Meanwhile, remember that the presiding officer is with them at that place. The presiding officer also had the list of the party agents at that time because they were there, but everyone ran away. So they will now fill the form EC8A. They will fill it by allocation based on the newly printed ballot paper. So they will allocate what they call 120, 130 to themselves. Then they could not say, okay, allocate maybe just 20 for the other people to make it rhyme with the beaver. This is the new game they are trying to do. However, here is the good news. But the good news, I'm not going to disclose it today. Because if you disclose it, they are going to look for another option, which I know of, but we don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
After the election, I'm now going to make that one known to the Nigerian people. That is the beauty of the beavers. That is what the beavers are brought in. It is the beavers that have made it finally on this point, that has made it now impossible for a governor who wants to see the National Assembly as a retirement home. It's now the beaver. That's why you could see that politicians are running helter-skelter. It is the beavers that made it possible for an Okada rider to win the election, because we designed the process in such a way that your pocket should not matter, but what you have upstairs.
Okay.
All right, Mike. Because we also have guests here who probably want to interact with you as well.
To Wayne, you know, Barrister, what has been coming to my mind for the last few seconds we've been talking no, at least the last few minutes, especially showing how it was as if I was in a school of election malpractice. That was how I was feeling, that school of rigging, and I hope that it doesn't happen, or we don't see the extent at which, you know, people might think, and it will discourage them from coming out on Saturday. But like you said, we have
he said that had happened in some off-cycle elections, but INEC was able to nip it in the bud, and that he believes that is what has been imported into the elections.
They are going to do it. They are going to do it. They are going to do it. But they are going to fail. That's the beauty.
All right.
It is not to discourage you. It's for you to come out massively, because you are going to overwhelm them. You are going to overwhelm them.